Welcome to the single needle dialysis video. This video will go over the indications and limitations of single needle dialysis, some factors that influence the effectiveness of single needle dialysis, as well as optimizing single needle treatment. We'll then get into the single needle double pump setup and review some treatment scenarios with this machine setup. And finally, we'll get into the double needle one pump setup and get into some final treatment scenarios with this normal machine setup.
So we're talking about setting up for single needle dialysis on a double pump machine. So this specific machine allows us to do single needle dialysis because it has two pumps. We start dialysis, our T1 test, just as per normal. So we have all the same supplies as a regular setup. I've got my saline ready, my drain bag, and I've got a single needle set here. I'm putting in the arterial pump segment, the arterial chamber, and attaching the arterial chamber transducer. And then I'm going to put in the single needle pump segment. Next, I'm going to put in the arterial pressure dome, the arterial clamp, and the cuvette, and the arterial temperature monitor. I'm just going to attach the arterial line to the drain bag and the arterial line to the dialyzer. So I've just strung the machine for the arterial side. So I've got the first pump, the second pump, the arterial chamber, the arterial pressure monitor, the arterial clamp, the cuvette, the temperature monitor, and up to the drain bag. So the next thing we're going to do is put the venous side of the lines up. So we put the venous bulb in, making sure to set that into the eye. Connect your transducer. Make sure your clamp is on, and another clamp on the venous line. This goes into the venous clamp and to the venous temperature monitor. And put this up to the drain bag. attach my venous line to the dialyzer. So just for a review of the venous section, you've got your venous going to the dialyzer, you've got your venous bulb with your clamp on, your transducer, going through your air detector, your venous clamp, and your venous temperature monitor. So last step is connecting your saline, just as for your standard setup. We're going to connect it to the saline bag, and it's going to fill by gravity. Once the saline gets into your arterial line, clamp, and then you can go ahead and turn on your blood pump. And that is going to prime your lines, just as for your normal setup, through your arterial pump and into your arterial chamber. So your standard setup, we have just the one pump. So the only difference between the single needle setup and the standard setup is for the single needle, we have the second arterial pump and we have the arterial chamber. So just as with the standard setup, your rinse volume is 500 at 100 mils per minute. So it takes you 5 minutes to prime your complete set. So just to make a note of the level for the arterial chamber, it should be just at the bottom of the arterial chamber so that it leaves a lot of room for fluctuation when you're doing dialysis. Okay, our rinse volume has been reached, so we're going to close off our drain bag, open our arterial line, and put it into circulation and increase to 400 as per your regular setup. Our T1 test is complete, so we can now hook up our dialyzer. So there's a couple of scenarios where you would set up a double pump single needle setup. You may know that your patient is going to require single needle. They've had issues the last time, or they've only got space for one needle on their fistula. So in that situation, you would go ahead and set up your single needle setup. So the first scenario, your patient arrives, you've done the assessment, and they do in fact need to run single needle today. So all you're going to do is assess your fistula, and you're going to put only one needle in with your Y connector. All right, so your patient has arrived, and we're going to start single needle. So you put your single needle in, and the first thing we do is we're going to shut the pump off and turn your pump speed down to 100. Okay, so we have a fistula here. We've only got one needle in, so we have the Y connector, which gives us an arterial and a venous port for dialysis. So for the purposes of this video for demonstration, we'll just be using the bag. So I've turned off my machine, I've turned my pump speed down to 100. I'm clamping all of my lines on the machine, 4 lines, and I have to clamp my saline and my roller clamp on my saline. Okay, so I'm going to take my arterial and connect it to the patient, and the venous, and connect it to our mock patient here. Okay, I'm opening 4 clamps, and then as we're doing single needle, I'm going to go ahead and say single needle connect. That's going to ask me if I want to start the blood pump, and I'm going to confirm. It says set the level to the single needle chamber to the mark. And we're going to bring the level down to the blue line on the machine. Okay, I'm going to say okay. So now that it's seen blood, I'm not going to use heparin, so I'm going to switch heparin off. And it's got blood detected, so I'm going to start my treatment. I can't use the BTM functions in this treatment mode, so I'll just say okay. And now our pump speed is at 100. I'm just going to increase it to 150. Then I'm going to go to options and choose single needle. Going to single needle, my stroke volume is at a default of 35, and I'm going to increase that to 60. Okay. And my ratio is at 25 plus 25, which is the difference between the arterial pump and the return. So auto single needle is right now set on no, and we want it to be yes, because we want the level to adjust as you increase the pump speed. So our pump speed right now is 150, which gives us an effective flow of 81. So I'm going to go ahead and turn up the pump speed to 250. So it keeps alarming because we don't have an actual patient running right now. We're just running a simulation, so the pressures are not exact. Okay, so here we're showing our stroke volume as 60, and the stroke volume is the volume that is in the arterial chamber. It's now 250, so that makes the effective blood flow only 136. When I turn up our pump speed, it's going to increase my effective blood flow. And our goal is to have the highest possible effective blood flow. Okay, so that's everything for your single needle setup and for running your single needle. So at the end of the treatment, we're going to re-infuse as usual. Post-dialysis, our machine is asking us to connect our arterial blood line to the saline, so we'll go ahead and do that. And we're just going to push OK. And that's going to return your blood. You're going to return at 100 mils per minute, and we're going to return the 300 just like you do for a normal setup. You set up single needle because you feel that you may need to run single needle today, but your patient arrives, the fistula looks great, and you're able to get 2 needles in without any difficulty. But you already have our setup with the single needle system. That's all right, because you can still do double needle on this system. So what we're going to do is we're going to just connect the patient as usual. So we clamp, and connect to the patient. And we've got the option here that we could either do single needle or standard connect. And we're actually just going to choose standard connect. So it says here to start the blood pump. So once it sees blood, we're not using heparin today, so I'm going to switch the heparin off. So once it's detected the blood, it gives us the option. We can either do the double needle or single needle. And we've got double needle now, so we can go ahead and choose double needle. At that time, it's going to pop out this first arterial pump, the line. So it's giving you instructions here of what to do. So it says to continue, remove the door, remove the single needle pump segment, and then press it in again until it emits the beep. Okay, it's left loose here. We close the door. We're able to continue on with 2 needle dialysis. Okay, in this scenario, we set up for the single needle system because the patient may have had an issue last time, or we were concerned that we may need to run single needle today. But we assessed the patient to be able to have 2 needles. So we started the treatment with 2 needles with the single needle setup ready to go. Patient is now running double needle dialysis. A complication arises, so we want to switch the patient over to single needle. As you can see, we're still set up for single needle, but we're running double needle using only the 1 arterial pump and the second pump not in use. So our patient is currently running double needle dialysis. And we've decided that there's been an issue with one of the needles, so we want to switch them over to single needle dialysis. We're going to grab our Y connector and 2 saline syringes. We're going to flush the Y connector with saline. And then put our Y connector onto our good needle. Okay, so we've connected our lines to the Y connector, and we're going to switch this machine over to single needle. So we need it stopped. We're going to go to options and single needle, and we're going to turn single needle on. Now it's saying, are you connected both the arterial and venous blood line to the same vascular access? And we have, so we're going to say yes, start single needle. Then we're going to just make sure our level is set. Just going to increase my pump speed here. I want to make sure my single needle is on. I'm on auto signal, single needle, yes, and my stroke volume is 60. So I'm just going to increase our pump speed because what we're caring about is our effective blood flow. So we want our effective blood flow to be as high as possible. So this patient arrived today, and the fistula was assessed to be very well. Was started on double needle. We're using the single needle machine, but we're only have it set up as the standard setup. So just like any other regular day, this patient is running on the regular setup, just with the 1 pump running 2 needles. When there is an issue arise, in the first 3 hours, we have to strip the machine and go to the single needle setup. However, if we are into the last hour, we just want to preserve a little bit of the treatment, maybe get a little bit more fluid off, that's the situation where we can change over to click-clack. We've gone ahead and put our Y on our fistula. So now we're just going to switch over the machine to click-clack. So we go into the options, go to single needle, and it actually gives us the only option of click-clack. There's no single needle option, it's just a click-clack. So now it says you've connected both arterial and venous bloodline to the same vascular axis, which we've done using the Y connector. And so we're just going to start. So again, in click-clack, we just want to increase the pump speed. We don't want to increase it as much. We can't increase it as much as when we're using the 2 pumps. Okay, so we increased the pump speed to 200, which is giving us an effective blood flow of around 88. And you'll see down here that the pump is just stopping and starting. So this is, as it's pulling from the arterial, it pulls, and then it'll stop and then return to the venous. So this patient is running on a fistula. It's early in the treatment. He's running double needle. We thought that he was going to be okay, but there's become an issue with his fistula, so we have to switch over to single needle. We don't want to go to click-clack because he does not get good dialysis with click-clack. We want to go ahead and switch over to the single needle setup with single needle. We have the single needle pump here, so we can go ahead and use the same machine. So what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to return his blood and remove these lines and put in a new set of lines. So what we're going to do is we're just going to go into the blood system and we're going to put remove all lines. And we're going to remove the lines. Okay, so now we can open up the doors and remove this whole system of lines. So I would disconnect the patient and I would get the single needle Y and put that on the patient and flush the fistula, the good needle, while I remove and set up the new setup. So then you can connect your bicart and your acid and go into T1, and then you do your setup for single needle.